Hello there, hello there, hello there, YouTubes! How the devil are we all? I am very well. I thank you for asking. Now, this stream is going to be a slightly weird one in that there's no absolute plan of what's going to go down here. But it will serve me several purposes, and hopefully you'll enjoy it too. Firstly and foremostly, the chud roulette. There are no rules to chud roulette, apart from you don't talk about chud roulette and you don't talk about chud roulette based on Fight Club, obviously, and also bring your own bottle. Naturally, I'm not made of money. Anyway, basically, it's going to be you, the audience, helping yourself to help me to help entertain you. I need your suggestions for videos that you want me to watch in this stream now from chuddy pricks. You know the kind of people I'm talking about. I'm not going to name any names. I don't want to sway you toward any one person or another person. What I want, though, is you to give me suggestions, not just people's names, like a video that you've seen or whatever. Send it to me either on the Twitters, or if you're a mod, you can put it in the chat and all of that shit. And I'll watch it live on stream and respond and just shout. Basically, shouting at some right-wing pricks is the basic gist. So get your suggestions in for that. First and foremost, that's first and foremost. But it will allow me to do several things this stream. Tell you where I've been, which has been a palaver. No, it's quite boring in many respects, so I'll get through that quickly. It'll allow me to test that this streaming thing even still fucking works, which is related to point number one. For me to get used to the two-screen thing, because I've got two streams running at the moment. I've got this one with the OBS, that one with the stream, all that jazz, because I'm going to be looking to do some Twitch streams in the not-too-distant future, which may or may not involve some gaming aspects, which you'll probably need a second thing for so that you don't get lag and all that sort of shit. Dropped bit rates and stuff I've been reading about. It's a fucking nightmare. Anyway, so that, and yeah, and like I say, it'll allow me to get back into the swing of things, because I haven't done one of these for a couple of years. Not a couple of years, a couple of weeks. Apologies. I have done some in the last 2 years, but not in the last couple of weeks. Right, so, number one, right. I lost access to my account because YouTube glitchy shithole of a place that it is. The email address that this account was set up in, this YouTube account was set up in, wasn't a Gmail account. It's a Hotmail account. Because I couldn't have signed up with a Gmail account. Gmail didn't fucking exist at the time. That's how old I am, people. Yeah. Anyway, it's not even called Hotmail anymore. The account's still the same name, but they don't even call it that. It's Microsoft Outlook. That's how old, disgustingly old I am. Anyway, so YouTube glitched out like fuck on that after fucking, 15 years nearly of having the account. Or 12, 13, 14 years, whatever. Yeah, so they decided that you had to be connected to a Gmail account or something. So it chose a Gmail account, which I hadn't used in a long time. It's one of the ones that I'd set up fucking one of the millions of backup channels on, because, the Nazis had come after me and all that shit. Anyway, so I, so it glitched out, and essentially, that Gmail account took over this account, and I couldn't access the account. I could only go to the 0 subscriber backup account thing. Anyway, so they had to reset this up as the brand account of that account. So for some of you, in your subscriptions, you may have seen me under the phrase brand account at some point over the last 72 hours. It has now thankfully changed seemingly for everyone, and I'm now back to being Kevin Logan and all the rest of it. And it took away my avatar as well, so I just put up a random other avatar, which is the image you can see somewhere on your screen that you're watching at the moment, where I say it's me with my basic bitch Microsoft Paint skills, cut out my face and put it onto the face of Vincent van Gogh, the famous artiste of years past. one of his self-portraits, because that's what I do. The entire fucking the series of images I use for the happy hours when I've hosted them and stuff is one of those. Anyway, it's a boring palaver, but I finally managed to get it back. But what I will say is, fuck YouTube. The people who actually helped me out were really good, but trying to get a hold of them because there's so few of them employed because YouTube is shit. Oh my god, like getting blood from a fucking stone. Absolute bastard nightmare. Anywho, so that happened. So I haven't been even able to get onto the account until like 2 days ago or something. So, yeah. What was the point I was going to make after that? Yeah, so I had to test if this was even still a thing because when I came back on, for those who don't know, when you go into your YouTube studio for the first time, it has all these weird little pop-up things to try and like prompt you into like doing a thing for the first time. So like a little tab will appear and be like, oh, click on this button if you want to do blah blah blah, and you press X because fuck that, and then another one will pop up and blah, blah, all of that. And when I came back onto this channel, even though like I say it's been around since like 2006 or something, all of those things started popping up again. So I thought, oh fuck, I don't even know if this is like, I don't know if it's reset all my settings. Thankfully it hadn't, but I wasn't sure about the live streaming and all that bollocks. So I thought to myself, okay, I'll do a live stream because me and Christy are going to do another happy hour, but I'm going to be hosting back on this channel now because I can. Tomorrow, usual time, which is 9 PM UK time, 10 PM Central European time, which is 5 PM on the east coast of America. Those are your 3 coordinates. You'll have to work out your own time zone from there. Anyway. Right. So I had to test that this was even a thing that worked again, which it does, thankfully. And I had to test that I'm looking a bit worse for wear. Oh, that's Coach Red Pill. Oh, Rob, well, you're nearly dead, aren't you, you old fuck? Anyway, so, where was I? Yeah, so this works, thankfully. And I'm getting used to the 2 screens. I'm going to start doing some Twitch streaming. That should be interesting, I suppose. Anyway, yeah, so let's do that. Do we have any suggestions from the chat for videos and things? Because that was literally sort of one of the points. Where the microphone is pointing, by its shape, the capsule seems to be pointing downward. No, it's pointing upwards. I don't know where you're getting that from. Anyway, oh, hello, Harvey. By the way. Did we have any suggestions for videos? someone get rid of Coach Red Pill. Hilarious. Lolly, what the fuck? Coach, I don't know what that means. Anyway, I need suggestions for videos to look at, people. Otherwise, chud roulette will have been a total failure, and it will be on you. Okay. So I need some suggestions for that. What's up, fellow chuds? Oh, CRB, how's your tax evasion? Oh, Chocolate Thunder laying down the boom. Nice. Vosh. Well, Vosh is a bit chuddy, but that's not quite what I meant. Incredibly unhelpfully timed penis, thank you. Talk about evolution. Oh, wait, that's me. Oh, that's Peasy Myers. Hello, Peasy Myers. He's my famous scientist friend. Other than, well, Christy Winters kind of is as well. But she's a social scientist. And as we know, only the hard sciences count as worth anything. So yeah, I was channeling my inner chud. Do Sargon defending the racist prof. Okay, I will do that, Chocolate Thunder. You have to give me a link. Because, I mean, I could search for it. And I know I'm doing the live stream, so I should probably aid in my own being able to do it. But, you know. Hang on a second. What's this? Oh. What's that doing? I don't know what that's doing. What's it? Oops, something went wrong. Well, that's good. Fuck it, I'll look for it. So, defending the racist professor. Who's the racist professor? I don't know. Well, I'll be watching this live with you for the first time, so I don't even know what racist professor we're referring to here. It could be anything. But it surprises me that Sargon would defend a racialist. That's very unlike him. No, it's okay, Sea Beach. I'm gonna find it. If it'll ever fucking do it. Right. No, don't go onto cricket. As much as I do like cricket, this is not the point. Right. Sargon, racist professor. Which could be his title, I suppose. He is a professor of racism. UKIP. Oh, that's not going to help, is it? It'll be on Sargon and Daily, won't it? Hang on. Stick with me, people. Chud roulette, it's in its infancy, so, you know. Sargon Daily. Is it CAD Daily? CAD Daily. Whoops. Okay. Because he doesn't release anything on his main thing, does it? It's only on... Right. The BBC goes full woke. Didn't he do that video like 5 years ago? Can it continue to go woke, or did he become unwoke and then now he's gone full woke again, but he just didn't say again? Cancelling cancel culture. I mean, that does involve some racist professors, bizarrely, but I don't think that's the video we're looking for. Ah, no! Fuck off. Apologies if you heard this video that I didn't want now.
CNN just managed to scalp Tucker Carlson.
If only. In Minecraft. I don't even know if that came through. Did it? Maybe it did. Videos. Right. Should trans women compete with biological women? Presumably that's not the one. David Starkey is cancelled. Is that... Oh, is it... David Starkey. Yes. Okay. The Blair White one is her standing for J.K. Rowling. That's not surprising. She's one of the worst human beings ever. She's the transphobic transgender person, Blair White. So let's have a look at her. Okay, so what we'll do... Hang on, I'll get the video up. Nobody is... Oh, hang on. I want to see what the thumbnail said. It says, no one got cancelled or something. Where are we? I've completely lost where the fuck I was. And of course he's defending David Starkey. No one is safe from cancel culture. What can I say? Anyway. Right, so I'll transition over there. Boom. Can everyone see that in the chat? I couldn't watch... I said 5 years ago. Yeah, no, I mean... The prof's name is David Starkey. Yeah, it is David Starkey. I think we covered this on the Happy Hour a little bit, but we'll see. Apparently, him being very, 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 very racist isn't enough to save him from cancel culture. Brilliant. Let's get rid of Sargon Daily. And let's take a look at whatever this bollocks is. We'll see how much of it we can get through, because, you know.
Ladies and gentlemen, I regret to inform you that Dr. David Starkey, the famous British historian and all-around absolute mad lad, has been...
Mad lad? He's a mad lad. Yeah. The fact, Carl, that you think he's awesome shows why he's been cancelled, and is cancel-worthy. And also, I don't know that he's really been cancelled as such, but okay, look, we'll get into it. Right?
Cancelled for saying something that is true in a way that offended the left, if you can believe it. He was
for saying something which is true. He said that slavery wasn't genocide because all the damn blacks survived. That's not true, Carl. That's so not true. Yeah. Anyway, well.
He was trending on Twitter all day yesterday because he had done an interview with a conservative commentator called Darren Grimes, and in it he had said slavery was not genocide, otherwise there wouldn't be so many damn blacks in Africa or Britain, would there? Now, that sounds rude, because that's...
That sounds rude? That sounds rude. That sounds a little bit rude, don't you think? Yeah, impolite, you might suggest. Oh, Carl, you seem to think that people having like, quotas on different, racial groups or like affirmative action. You think that's like a hideous, awful thing. How dare they? It's the fall of the Western civilizations. Whereas slavery, that was fine. It's fine. Who cares? Oh, fucking hell. Anyway, let's see what Carl has to say about this very, very impolite thing that David Starkey had to say.
It's the kind of Cambridge lecturer, sort of old English sort of vibe that he gives across. Everything's...
Well, surely you would be against that, Carl, because you've in the past stated that, when the guy who the commissioner for Gibraltar, you called him an Oxbridge-educated twat. So clearly being an Oxbridge person, Oxbridge is a portmanteau of Oxford and Cambridge, because they're like the two, seen as the main two universities in the country. Anyway, him being an Oxbridge professor means that you're against him, because you're such a populist, Carl. Yeah? Interesting how that works. When he's being racist, that's good. When he's not being racist or being anti-racist, then your Oxbridge education / professorship is bad. Interesting how that works.
Silly has to be made sure it's known to be silly by using pejorative language. But let's have a look at that statement. Slavery was not genocide. Otherwise, why would there have been so many black people in America and Africa? Well,
notice how he's softened that phrase already, because he didn't say so many black people. He said damn blacks, like they were shit on the sole of his shoe, to be scraped off into the dustbin of history / the Atlantic Ocean. Their, numerous corpses. Just detritus. Damn blacks. Like you'd say fucking damn birds shitting on my car, or damn moles, churning up my fucking lawn. That's what people, one of the things many people took offence to. So the fact that you've softened that up shows what a propagandist prick you are.
Well, that's a true statement, isn't it? Isn't it true that slavery is not the same as genocide? I
can only assume, because Carl's such a big-brained individual, that he will give us a definition of what he thinks genocide is. Carl, it is genocide. It absolutely is. It doesn't have to be just gas chambers and ovens for it to be genocide. You fucking moron. The UN definition, which I know the UN is not necessarily a perfect organisation and all that jazz, but they do tend to know what they're talking about. They go to like experts and stuff. People who are Oxbridge educated, which apparently is good now, so you'll have to take their word for it, won't you, Carl? Anyway, the UN put things like making the conditions for perpetuation of a certain racial or religious or ethnic group impossible, which this did. For forcibly taking the young of said group, which they did. For forcibly relocating them to a place where it would be inhospitable for them to live, which they did. It means basically every criteria for what a genocide is, including, of course, actual murder of individuals as well, which they did. One particular game called blowing up a N-word arse. They used to play in the sugar plantations, where an unruly slave, one of these damn blacks that Starkey was referring to, I'm sure, who had been uppity in any way, spoken out against their slave masters or the overseers or whatever. What they would do is they would stake the individual to the ground naked, one arm or leg to each stake, face down, then fill their rectum with gunpowder, including a large heap of gunpowder around the genitals on the floor, and then take turns flicking lit matches at said individual until it exploded and blew them up. Yeah. This was genocide, Carl, under any possible definition you can find. I defy you, Carl, to find me any definition that any cunt has ever come up with which doesn't get met by slavery.
Logically, it doesn't make any sense. You don't enslave the dead. You can't make the dead work. Slavery is the loss of your liberty and being forced to labour for some...
You can't enslave the dead. Carl, do you know how many people they killed? Do you have any fucking idea how many people they killed? You dopey prick. You can't enslave the dead. You know that, I assume, and I don't know this for sure anymore because you've gone full white nationalist, but the Holocaust, which did happen, Carl, I hope you still accept that that's the case, but whatever. The Holocaust involved slave labour, Carl, as well, yeah. It was an aspect of it. In fact, it was one of the aspects which was then generally defined as part of the genocide, because they'd be worked to death. You, Carl, are a fucking idiot who will defend any old racist shit. You're an embarrassment.
Someone else. You can't do that with dead people. You wouldn't want to genocide your own slaves. You need them alive. I mean, it's macabre.
No, Carl. Let's, for instance, take the encomienda system of slavery that the incredibly brutal, disgusting slaver Christopher Columbus, or Cristobal Colon, enforced on Hispaniola. Where that wasn't the case, actually, where they literally would work them to death and just replace them with another one of the indigenous folk that was there. And to the point where they all died, basically. I mean, they did... the basic fundamental problem I think you're having, well, A, is that you're dumb as fuck, but I suppose most importantly, you don't have to kill every single member of a group. Look, it doesn't have to be 100% successful, and when I say successful, I mean from the perspective of if your attempt is to kill everyone. It doesn't have to be 100% successful for it to be genocide. A genocide doesn't literally have to wipe out every member of every group, although actually the example I gave of the Taino people in Hispaniola, that was true. They don't exist anymore. So that one was 100% successful. But, you know, it's fucked up. What's in the chat? Tell the good people from the VW Labour programme and what they did with the babies of the female prisoners. Well, okay. I mean, we don't need to go into too much of the grim specifics, but yes, I mean, the Holocaust was pretty grim. Yeah, and this was, I mean, it absolutely was genocide, Carl. And you'll note here what a fucking hack Carl is, because he's saying it's not genocide. He hasn't given a definition of Jefficide? Jefficide or genocide. I mean, I don't know why he would give an opinion on what Jefficide is, because that's not a thing. But he hasn't given at all any definition of what genocide is. So we'll see if he does.
Barbara to have to explain. But for some reason, this is the discussion we're now having to distinguish between slavery and genocide. Both terribly, terribly inhumane things to do. Things I'm sure David Starkey stands in firm opposition to. But there is a distinction between them. They're not the same thing.
Well, they're not literally entirely synonymous. That is true. Slavery is a specific kind of genocide, yes. There are ways of doing genocide which doesn't involve slavery. Just outright wiping them out, for instance. The way in which, say, Britain did in the concentration camps in South Africa with the Boers. That was an example of genocide that was done with, well, I mean, I can't say it was totally without slavery, but largely there was no real slave thing going on involved with that. So yes, they're not entirely synonymous, that is true, But I suspect that's not what you're saying, is it, Carl? You're saying they're completely separate things with no overlap, which is fucking ludicrous.
Weird that there's a desire to conflate the two, isn't it? It's very, very strange. Why does slavery and genocide have to be the same thing? I mean, they're obviously distinct. They're not even vaguely compatible either. One doesn't lead to another.
They're not even vaguely compatible. That's a stretch even beyond just they're not the same thing. They're not even vaguely compatible. One doesn't lead to the other. Well, actually, yeah, it does. That's precisely what it does. Concentration camps were slave labour. Is that specifically with the Boers? Okay, maybe I will defer. I don't know about that. Okay. UN genocide prevention. Okay. Anyway,
I mean, from the perspective of someone who owns slaves, that's your property. Why would you want to destroy your own property? I mean,
I don't know, God. Why did they? Why did they do that? Yeah, and not just that, Carl. But again, it's not literally just about outright murder all the time. It's about complete disconnection and ruination of culture and disempowering them of anything, like literally them being human. But yeah, that's involved in genocide, Carl. As I'm sure you're well aware. This is grim. Why have you given me a grim video? I want to laugh at like fucking War Corps being a fucking idiot. I mean, it's sort of worthwhile to look at this.
It's so bizarre. Like, I feel like I'm defending the slave owners from the charge of being genocidal.
What a surprise,
because
Carl.
That's the kind of the position you're forced into. But you've got to admit there is a distinction there, because otherwise you're not being honest. But anyway, as you can imagine, widely criticised for slavery was not genocide remarks. But the thing is, it's not. Even if 2.4 million slaves died in transportation to get to the New World, that doesn't mean they were trying to kill them. That just means
Carl, you are such a profoundly idiotic human being. You are one of the most dense pricks in the world. I mean, I don't know where to begin. It has to be absolute purposeful slaughter. Well, firstly, whether or not they're trying to kill each individual is irrelevant. They knew the Middle Passage would kill a huge proportion of them. But they did it. They made the calculation that if they just crammed the ship full of loads of people, enough would get to the other side that it would be more profitable to do it that way. So whether they were literally trying to kill them or not, they killed them. That's genocide, Carl. Obviously. Just imagine for a second, dear viewer, dear listener. Imagine if this had happened to white people. Imagine if this exact thing was exactly the same, except that it was black people doing it to white people. Imagine David Starkey and this fucking bloviating twat from Swindon. Imagine if they'd have had the exact same reaction. I dare say they wouldn't. I dare say they'd have had a completely different reaction. Literally the exact opposite reaction. Because, they're both racist scum. Obviously.
Conditions were very unsanitary and the journey was very dangerous. Genocide does have a legal definition, and it has to be intentional erasure or displacement or eradication of a particular ethnic group.
And this was precisely that. I mean, actually, you've narrowed it down far too much. But even under your pseudo definition there, you mentioned displacement. Do you think maybe the people of West Africa being taken thousands of miles across an ocean during which millions of them would die and being completely ripped apart in terms of families and communities, do you think that counts as displacement? I'd suggest being forcibly removed thousands of miles to a completely different continent. I would suggest that's displacement, Carl. You fucking dick. Even under your stupid, ridiculously narrow version of genocide, that's still genocide.
That's not what slavery was. So, sorry, it just doesn't fit the definition. But anyway, obviously everyone started having a go. And Toby Young made a great point, head of the Free Speech Union. If virtually everything and everyone in Britain is racist, from its history, its museums, its monuments, its statues, its university, its criminal justice system, its government, etc., then why should we cancel David Starkey for being racist? Is he not being just like everyone else?
That's hilarious. Also, it wasn't like the left that cancelled him. His university sacked him. Not run by the left, my friend. I know you think it is because everyone's a cultural Marxist who's involved in academia, but this is like stuffy old right-wing twats. And even they were like, whoa, you can't go on about the damn blacks, not in public. I presume they all do it in private, but he did it on film. Yeah. Also, and again, the basic point stands. You can get away with a lot of racist shit in Britain, but when it's that blatant, Carl, you will still defend it because you'll defend any racist bollocks. But yeah, you can get away with a lot of racist shit, but when it's that blatant, people will be like, "Don't, yeah, that's not cool. Fuck off."
Well, good question. Why would they be bothered? I mean, you would think if you did view the world as a giant racial patriarchy, or however they view it, a white supremacist...
A giant racial patriarchy? This man knows the things, doesn't he? He knows all of the buzzwords. He doesn't know how to use any of them, really. That's fine. But, ridiculous. What's this? I'm trying to read the chat as well. Kev's asking for chuds to talk about, blah blah blah. Yeah. Convention. There's a fish called the crappie. Is that true? I mean, it's not remotely there's no point to that, really, but okay. Yeah, I know cultural Marxism is a conspiracy theory. That's why I was sort of mocking him, because he thinks everyone's a cultural Marxist who disagrees with him. Especially in academia. You'll notice he was defending David Starkey, even though he's been in academia for decades, because he agrees with his racist bullshit. But everyone else in academia, cultural Marxisms. Anyway. I don't know how much more I can take of this, because I think we've basically got the gist of his argument. Such as he even has an argument, I suppose.
Country, this Britain at least, then you would expect everyone in there to be racist on a daily basis. I mean, what a tiring job it would be to have to police that kind of country. Unless, of course, we're not a racist country, and this is all built on lies. Lies.
Carl, imagine that. This is the guy that was called for the firing of a guy who did the "I'm dreaming of a white genocide" joke at Christmas. But apparently saying slavery wasn't genocide and calling them the damn blacks, that's fine. And that's the thing. I was briefly considering doing a video on the Harper's Magazine cancel culture letter thing, but and basically pointing out that virtually everyone on that list either has subsequently said, "I didn't know these right-wing fuckers were going to be here, otherwise I wouldn't have signed it," or have been involved in cancel culture of their own, including some of the people who didn't sign but supported it, like Ted Cruz, for instance, who literally came out and supported the idea of making it illegal to be in favour of the BDS movement against Israel. Which you can agree or disagree with boycotting Israel, that's fine, right? We can have that discussion. The point is, if you make it illegal, you can't really claim to be like free speech. Free expression.
That Piers Morgan has stuck his face into and snorted deeply of. Disgusting racism by...
Carl still can't get past when Piers Morgan and Nigel Farage dunked on him on TV. He can't move on from it.
Starkey, shamefully endorsed by nodding dog Darren Grimes, because Darren's just listening to David talk. David Starkey is a very, very eloquent and engaging speaker. I'm sure you know, because I've had him on this channel.
Has he? I didn't know that. And that's actually quite a good get. Just, I mean, ignoring the politics involved in both of these dickheads, that's quite a good get for a not particularly massive YouTuber. In the grand scheme, in the political circle, he's reasonably big, Carl. But in the grand scheme of things, he's not. And yet to get David Starkey, look, he's been genuinely on TV and stuff. Like he's a well-known figure. So that's quite a good get to get him on the YouTube channel. But I missed that. I didn't know he was on there. Anyway, what was I going to say? I don't know. We'll watch a bit more of this and then leave it.
Darren is like, I don't know, 23, something like that. He's a young lad who's just listening to one of his heroes from the telly speak in a manner to which he is enjoying.
I'm going to just say thank you to Darren Grimes, the idiot. He's taken down David Starkey and that Scottish twat, whatever his name is, who I used to like. Well, actually, I used to like David Starkey's programmes to a degree, but the Scottish guy, he did Coast, was the big thing he did with the travel around the coast and tell you about coastal communities and stuff. That show was quite good. They got him to resign from his position as well because he defended him. So Darren Grimes, Comrade Grimes, has taken out two right-wing twats from very public positions just for exposing their racism, which is awesome. Thank you, Darren.
And he's not passing every single word. He's trying to get the meaning because, again, Starkey is speaking in depth on issues. And so it's amazing that Piers Morgan with him...
In depth. The damn blacks, that counts as in depth. The premise, meaning to intend to destroy whoever, continues to be the subject of academic debate. This article seeks to contribute... Blah, 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 blah. You need to read up, Kevin. I'm not an expert. I've never claimed to be an expert, but I know that slavery is genocide. Yeah. Obviously. Because you can't really live your life and prosper and, like, breed properly and have families when they can just take your child from you. Neil Oliver, that was the Scottish twat, yes.
His, millions of followers on Twitter and national, international fame is going to just punch down at Darren, who's got, I don't know, maybe 100,000 followers on there, like 20,000 on Parler and all this.
Carl, you can't do that, mate. That's ridiculous. You made your entire career off punching down at tiny feminist channels, you piece of shit. Fuck you.
Like the scale is just nowhere near, and yet shame on you, Darren Grimes. Because Piers Morgan, the moral arbiter of Britain, has decided it. Shut up, Piers. Sajid Javid and obviously other Conservatives just folded like wet paper bags. We are the most successful multiracial democracy in the world and have much to be proud of. But Starkey's racist comments are a reminder of the appalling views that still exist.
Carl, why didn't you read out so many damn blacks? Why did you choose to ignore the thing? Sajid Javid, by the way, is was the British Chancellor, high-ranking member of the Conservative Party and all the rest of it. So I don't like him. He's garbage. But if you're going to read out a quote and show it on the screen, not quoting the ridiculous racist shit that he quoted from Starkey, kind of shows you for what you are, man. Is there some prick in the chat defending slavery? I'm unsurprised. Anyway.
That's not what he was saying, Sajid, and this is not going to make the communists in the media love you. They'll still say that.
The communists in the media! The communists in the media. They're everywhere. The Reds are everywhere, obviously. And as the CEO of Antifa, I can definitely say, everyone in the media, communist. Definitely. That's definitely true, Carl.
That's Sajid Javid. He's problematic. He's a Conservative. We still hate him. The crocodile might eat you last, but it's still going to eat you, Sajid. But anyway, then the cancellations came. Canterbury Uni. We have terminated David Starkey's position as visiting professor with immediate effect. Look at those rainbows. What did you expect? Total.
Yeah, look at the rainbows. They've clearly been taken over by the communist gays. Which, to be fair, I am the CEO of Antifa. I can confirm. Yeah. Canterbury. We thought where would be the best place to start with taking over the world with the communist gays? Canterbury University, clearly. And that's where we started.
Totally unacceptable. Okay, well done, Canterbury Uni. Fitzwilliam College. We do not. This is part of Cambridge. We do not promote and support freedom of speech in our academic community. We have zero tolerance of racism. David Starkey's recent comments on slavery are indefensible. They're demonstrably true by the definitions of the words that we're using.
No, they're not, Carl. You're a liar. And Fitzwilliam College, for all the problems of any particular academic institution, I dare say would know more than some random cunt on the internet, i.e. Carl.
I'm sorry that you find that offensive for whatever reason, but that is a true statement and you can't make that not true. Unless, of course, you want to change the definition of what a genocide is.
No, you're the one trying to change a genocide, definition of genocide. And even under your definition, as weak as it was, and as narrow as it was, it's still genocide because they're being displaced, you dopey prick.
What slavery is. They said that they were considering what they're going to do about his honorary fellowship, and Starkey had obviously contacted them and said that he was going to resign, and so they accepted his resignation, which I suppose is the most proactive thing one can do in that situation. HarperCollins, the book publisher, who obviously publish his books, have cancelled him as well. So,
oh, God. I mean, these are all capitalist institutions. They're doing it for the profit motive and all the rest of it. Let's not pretend they give two fucks about racism. But the fact that it is financially viable for them to, or financially better for them to cancel David Starkey, I think shows that society has moved in a good direction, but, you know, whatever. Anyway, I'm done with this bollocks. Has anyone got any other suggestions? Let's move off from Carl, because he's such a boring cunt. Let's have a look. Transition to my beautiful visage. Yeah. Has anyone got any other suggestions for videos and things? Did anyone... Oh, actually, I did say do it on Twitter. Did anyone tweet me videos? I don't know. Let's have a look. Oh, Black Pigeon speaks. Bitching about Soros. Let's do it. Thank you to whoever sent me that. And what's this? Digibro calls. Talk about procrastinating. That's Vosh, is it? No? I don't know. Anyway, let's take a look at Black Pigeon speaks, wanking himself silly over George Soros. That's fun times. Oh. What are we doing? I'm really good at this whole stream thing. Your mug's got to be vertical, bruh. No, it hasn't. It hasn't. It hasn't. An error occurred. Please try again later. Has he been taken down? Surely not. He's such a good boy. Yeah, well, I'm trying to get the... maybe it's been taken down. I don't know. Let's have a look. Will it do anything? I don't know. Let's have a look. Come on. 2020... Soros 2020 Color Revolution explained. That's a weird spell. That's a weird way of putting it, but let's have a look. Vosh gang. Is it going to work? Come on. An error occurred. Why won't it do the thing? Will it play on Twitter? I don't know. Let's have a look. It's playing on Twitter, so why won't it play on YouTube? That don't make no fucking sense.
The corporate owned and the...
Shut up, dickhead. Yeah, it works on Twitter, but for some reason I go on to the YouTube page for it, and it says error occurred. So I don't know what's... Yeah, for some reason it really doesn't want to play on YouTube. So we'll try playing it on Twitter. We'll go full screen with it. Oh, hang on, no, I can't go full screen yet, can I? Because I've got to change over the fucking OBS. God, I'm good at this, aren't I? So let's take a look at Black Pigeon Speaks' video, Soros 2020 Colour Revolution Explained!
The controlled mainstream media, along with other groups, are terrified that many are...
Hang on a second. Let's go back to the start. Let's see what nonsense he's talking. He's almost certainly talking about the Jews, by the way. Let's just get that out of the way.
The corporate-owned and the controlled mainstream media, along with other groups, are terrified that many are associating the continued violence and mayhem plaguing the cities of the United States and now many other cities across the Western world with the far-left philanthropist and ideologist.
Also, I think it's worth exploring the idea of George Soros being left. That's interesting. He obviously isn't. He's obviously like a mega capitalist douchebag. Oh, for fuck's sake. Hang on a minute. It's clearly up on the thing, so, I mean, I don't... Hang on. Oh, is it going to do it now? I don't know. Oh, it's loading now. Okay. Anyway, so George Soros clearly isn't far left. That's ridiculous. He's like an uber-capitalist piece of shit. He just supports like liberal organisations. But compared to Black Pigeon Speaks, yeah, I suppose he probably is pretty fucking far left in comparison to Black Pigeon Speaks, who probably thinks, you know, Hitler was a cuck or something. Anyway, so let's hear his amazing arguments about George Soros.
And ideologue George Soros. Since the outbreak...
Yeah, pick a very flattering picture that makes him look a little bit like a melting Yoda.
Of looting, arson, and violence that has been unleashed, negative tweets about Mr. Soros have ballooned from approximately 20,000 per day to 500,000 per day.
Yeah, because whenever anything happens, people tweet, "Oh, George Soros did a thing," which is, you know, as CEO of Antifa and therefore his direct underling, I have to say, yeah, that's true. George Soros does it all, obviously. George Soros clearly is leader of the media communists, obviously.
There's a lot of hand-wringing and attempts to dismiss why a wide cross-section of the population believe he is behind.
Hang on, whoa, time out. Wide cross-section? I'd be interested to see exactly what a wide cross-section that was. BPS. I'm guessing it's mainly internet cranks on the far right. So, you know, not very diverse. At all.
The current set of circumstances. It doesn't really matter because either way, the pseudo-color revolution currently underway is neither organic or has...
I literally call him a communist as a joke. Look at that flag. Oh, fucking hell. That is... that is beautiful. That's fucking beautiful. See, this is what I want. I want fucking mentalness. I don't want to have to sit here going, no, actually, it's genocide. Although note how Cole basically made the same argument, I think, about everyone being communist, so, you know. Yeah, I want that flag too, it's amazing, isn't it?
Sprung from the grassroots, and whether Mr. Soros is directly involved or through his surrogates, his...
You could just use my name. You don't have to say through his surrogates. My name's Kevin Logan, bitch. Okay?
Cultivation of this kind of Mott and Bailey faux dialectic we are now witnessing.
Mott and Bailey faux dialectic. I mean, that could have a meaning. Let's take our bets, everybody. Do we think he's going to explain what that phrase means? I'm going to suggest probably not, but let's have a look.
Has been ongoing for decades, as has been his involvement. It's also why so many are left with mouth ajar at the absolute fanaticism and outrageous demands currently being made on America and indeed on the West entirely.
I'm sure he's going to give us some examples of that, and there won't be cherry-picked lunatics. I'm sure. Mott and Bailey Revolution. That's a cool little graphic, I have to say.
Before this video begins,
he's full of shit, but you've got to say, it's slick production. Which is arguably worse. Like, War Corps will never get anywhere because he doesn't put any effort in. Whereas this guy's either got money behind him or is a good graphics person himself, I don't know.
I would like to encourage new viewers to subscribe to this channel, but more importantly, for returning viewers, please check that you're still subscribed, as I've received thousands of messages from people that have been unsubscribed by YouTube.
No, by me and George Soros. We do it personally. We meet every Thursday, 6 p.m. on the dot, and we have wild, crazy bomb love sex and delete your YouTube subscriptions. That's how it works, BPS. Yeah, go and type that into a QAnon fucking chat room, you prick.
Without their knowledge or consent. That said, thanks for arriving via whichever way, and let's get started. George Soros has been involved...
Straight away. He's not even trying not to be conspiratorial dipshit about it. Illuminati, winking eye... Which, I mean, to be fair, that is my nickname for him, the Illuminati winking eye.
Involved in several color revolutions after the fall of the Soviet Union and has for decades used his considerable fortune to influence the political and social cultures of countries around the world.
No, he's set up like a few fucking think tanks and stuff. Like... There are very, very rich bastards who definitely are controlling things via, like, lobbyists and just outright bribing politicians. They're not on the left, you dopey fuck.
Many accuse him of helping foment chaos and division. From Israel to Hungary, from the Ukraine to the United States, via his Open Societies Foundation, Mr. Soros has bankrolled the machinery of division for
the machinery of division. There's a couple of think tanks. There's literally just a couple of think tanks. The Southern Poverty Law Centre, I think, gets some of its money from the Open Society. But that's it. Like, as if he thinks these weird little NGOs really have that much of an impact. Because if they did, like, wouldn't world hunger be over? Because there's plenty of NGOs trying to deal with that shit. Like, just look around you, you fucking prick. It's so obvious that this is bollocks.
For decades. He's given billions to divisive groups like La Raza, also to the People for the American Way.
La Raza. Has he actually given money to La Raza? No, he isn't giving you any evidence of that. He's just saying they're giving billions to La Raza. Doesn't show that.
SPLC and the Huffington Post, all of which are centers of disinformation and division.
Communism.
For all of its talk of being a street uprising, Black Lives Matter is increasingly awash in cash. Back in 2016,
People have been donating to those groups. You dopey fuck. You think it's just George Soros ringing up, Hello, is this Black Lives Matter HQ? Yes, yes. This is the noted communist multi-billionaire, because that's a thing. George Soros. Yeah, I'd like to give you lots of money so that you can annoy BPS. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. Anyway, it's Thursday evening. Kev's coming round. See you later. Click.
Mr. Soros ponied up some $33 million of the $100 million that was raised that year by Black Lives Matter. Soros has also...
But how can you trust that? Because that comes from the media, which is run by communists. So how do you know any of that's true? Again, it's very interesting. The right really have taken on the Alex Jones methodology of anything the media says that you disagree with, you just go, no, they can't be trusted. But everything that even remotely confirms your already preconceived biases, that's true. Yeah, even though it comes from the very same sources you said were like evil communists or whatever. Interesting how that works. And then just say, oh, I've seen documents. Yeah, I've seen documents. I don't need to show you that. Like, it would be really convenient for everyone if I just showed you, but no, I'm not going to show you, because that would be... I'm busy.
been in the past linked with the hardcore agitation and Maoist street paramilitary group anti...
Maoist. Yeah, we're all Maoists in the Antifa. I can confirm, as the CEO of Antifa, the Antifa Super Soldiers PLC Limited Inc., that our public limited company is Maoist. That's true. That's definitely true.
Antifa and their political violence as a sponsor. Now, one thing you have to understand
Again,
about...
he's not showing you any evidence that George Soros is in any way connected to Antifa at all. But, it's true. George Soros is a Maoist.
Advocacy groups and their advocates is that survival is their first priority, not fixing problems. This is why you'll see groups like BLM in their own material expressing their desire to destroy the patriarchy, the heteronormative view of society, as well as the Western-derived nuclear family.
The Western-derived nuclear family. It's not like nuclear families have existed at various points in history all around the world. No, it's Western-derived. Naturally. Also, how does any of the things you just mentioned help BLM survive, which apparently is their number one priority? He's just saying things. How does anyone take this seriously? He says the number one priority is survival, so that's why you hear them talking about the patriarchy. How does that work? How the fuck does any of that work?
Clearly, none of these things help any people, black included. But what you have to understand is that none of these groups want to. They are created to disrupt and to continue the sowing of division.
How does that help them survive? How does that help anyone survive? What are you talking about? This is like a pretty big organisation in some respects, right? Them having like a completely disturbed social order doesn't actually help them survive. So the thing that you've said is not true.
And in connected news, earlier this year, Mr. Soros has launched his Open Societies University network with a $1 billion gift. And he will thus continue to help mold the thoughts of young people in the increasingly stifled halls of academia.
Oh, that's from Bloomberg. Oh, which of the Jews do we support? Which of the Jews? BPS. Yeah, he's given $1 billion to help schools fight nationalists and climate change. How's that sowing division? When literally nationalists are entirely about division. Literally, they want to separate the races completely. Please do tell me that. I mean, even if we accept that it's actually going to give $1 billion, I dare say if we looked into the details, it won't be. Just like when what's his face? Bill Gates says, oh, I'm giving away all my money. He isn't. It's a lie.
Academia worldwide, long after his death.
So it's $1 billion worldwide as well. So what's that, like 2 cents a school or something?
And while there is much back and forth as to whether Mr. Soros has paid out of pocket for the mysterious flats of bricks conveniently left for looters and rioters to
God, anything goes. Just disparate facts. Oh, anything's George Soros. Yeah, it's not like you've built a weird pseudo-religion for yourself and George Soros is your devil. No, this is totally different to that. Somehow.
use in the recent round of violence, arson, looting, and murder, it doesn't really matter. He has for decades helped build the...
It doesn't matter. I'm just going to stick it out there, but it doesn't matter. Like, what? This intellectually dilapidated piece of garbage, that Pigeon speaks. I mean, what a turd.
The infrastructure, the organization, and the command and control that can immediately be fielded once a single case of police brutality is caught on video, and within a few days have cities put to the torch with elected government officials bending the knee to violent mobs.
Yeah, it's just one single incident. That's it, yeah. It took one single incident. None of the other incidences and the consistent pattern of behaviour where police have been essentially torturing part of America. No, that's fine. It was this one particular little incident caught on camera. And let's not go into the details of it. Let's just say it's police brutality. That's fine. I mean, how can anyone see this as not propaganda? Yeah, they're Soros bricks. They are Soros bricks, yeah. I mean, I said George. He turned around to me. I was fucking him, obviously. I turned around to me. He said, "You right, Kev?" I went, "Yeah. The brick idea. I like the brick idea, but don't put your name on them." He went, "How will people know they're Soros bricks?" I said, "That's the point. You're not supposed to know, are you? You dirty bitch." And then I started spanking him. This got weird, didn't it?
While the corporate mainstream media cheers it all on from the sidelines.
The corporate media cheering it on. What the fuck are you talking about? It's constant condemnation of like, oh, the violence and the... you twat.
Recent waves of violence were the result of the use of calculated resentment and then with organized finesse, focusing this outrage to bring about radical social change via the faux dialectic of the Mott and Bailey.
No, he's just going to make claims now. Organised finesse. Yeah, riots... I think the one phrase you can't really use to describe a riot is organised finesse. It's like chaotic violence, isn't it? That's sort of what a riot is. You twat. Anyway, but he's going to explain his grand theory of everything, the Mott and Bailey dialectic. Let's see what grand, big-brained ideas we have.
In that you have an isolated case of police brutality somewhere in the Midwest of the United States.
Isolated. Totally isolated. There are no other things involved in any of this. There are absolutely none whatsoever. Just an isolated incident of police violence. That's all. It's not as if we've had decades and decades of constant police violence and murder with basically impunity by state-sanctioned thugs against specific ethnic minorities, largely. No, it's an isolated incident. That's all. This is bollocks. You're full of shit.
United States, and this has resulted in statues of Thomas Jefferson being ripped down and calls for police departments countrywide to be abolished. Reparations for slavery.
Okay, but all of those things have been talked about before. They've been taking down statues from various places for a long time. Literally, the Charlottesville murder, where people with very much your politics murdered a human being, the Charlottesville riots were literally about them trying to take a statue down of a Confederate general. I think it was General Lee, if I recall correctly. But anyway, they were trying to take down a statue, and that was years before this. That was like 2016 or whatever, 2017. So that was years before this. Reparations has been talked about since the Civil War, for fuck's sake. Like, these are not new things that just happened after the murder of George Floyd. That's why you literally saying it's an isolated incident is ridiculous, because it obviously isn't. Okay? It's a part of a pattern of behaviour, and the calls for these things, like taking down of racistly commemorating statues and reparations and all of that shit, has also not just arrived on the scene. It's been around for ages. In some cases, 150 fucking years.
And across the pond, the mayor of London has now called on a council to Photoshop that city's 2,000-year history so it pleases the sensibilities of the most frenzied ideologue of the...
Oh, yeah, you could have a go at the brown guy. Gotta have a go at the brown guy. Jesus.
These manufactured mobs and makes their political desires paramount to all other groups in a democracy.
No. They're demands in a democracy. He didn't say, only listen to black people about everything. He was saying, like, maybe if there are some racist statues, maybe pull those down. Maybe have a look at that. He wasn't saying, let's not take white people into account ever. But that you added that bit. He has not at no point said, don't listen to white people on anything. Obviously, that's ludicrous. You're a liar.
So then the question is, how on earth do you go from a singular event in Minneapolis to what we are seeing globally as a...
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't really, because it's not just a singular event in Minneapolis. These are these idiots. I mean, that's a spark that sets off a thing. But that kindling has been that set the spark set alight, right? That's been building up for decades. Are you not aware of the riots after Rodney King? Did you forget all of those? Maybe? Like, this has been going on for fucking decades, man. Anyhow.
As a result, well, it's simple. It's the Mott and Bailey.
He didn't explain what Mott and Bailey is. Like, for those who don't know, the Mott and Bailey is was a castle formation where you would have a hill with an inner fortress, and then that hill would be above a more wide, broad, lower-lying base, which would also be protected by an outer ring as well. But basically, it would mean people from a town, if they were being attacked, would go in to the larger area, and if necessary, you could go and hunker down in the, I forget, was it the Mott? Yeah, the hill. And for final protection, as a kind of last stand thing, if you were being attacked by an outside force. But I don't know what that's got to do with this. What, Mott and Bailey? What the fuck are you talking about? That doesn't even make sense. I genuinely don't know what he means by that in conjunction to this. Okay.
The premature death of anyone, including Mr. Floyd in Minneapolis, is a tragedy, but without all of...
Yeah, you sound really, really sincere. And the fact that it took you 6.5 minutes to even say that into the video suggests you don't give a fuck, and you probably don't want your fans hearing you say that. But it gives you plausible deniability, doesn't it? You can say, no, look, I said, even the death of George Floyd is a tragedy, even though I'm shitting on his memory and the movement that his death sparked.
The facts, I will reserve judgment on that particular case for now.
I'll reserve So it's a tragedy, but I'll reserve judgment, even though I mean, I don't know if he's watched the video, but the video's there. The video's there, dickhead. We can all see what fucking happened. A man being essentially tortured to death in the street by a law enforcement officer, supposedly, who's given carte blanche to enact that kind of violence daily. That most of those things, because they don't get filmed, don't ever get to this level. This was filmed and he still did it because there's an assumption from police that they have basically impunity to do this. But you're going to reserve judgment. Imagine again, as with Carl and the racist Professor Starkey, ex-Professor Starkey. If it was the other way around, if it would have been a black police officer kneeling on the neck of a white man on the floor to the point where he died, he was murdered by the black guy, whether Black Pigeon Speaks might have a slightly different take on this, whether he would still be reserving judgment, or whether he'd be going fucking crazy about it. I suggest it might be the latter. Don't know about you.
do also believe that many believe that they are oppressed by the state and the wider society. However, it is important to note that the level or amount a person feels oppressed has been shown to be an inverse ratio of age and education. Meaning, the younger you are,
Meaning the white nationalists who claim they're being white genocided must be the most stupid human beings in the world. Just a thought.
the more you will feel that you are oppressed, and the more educated you are, the more still. This is clearly the result of being told that some people are oppressed over and over.
Oh, sorry, I've got that wrong then. Okay. I thought he was saying it was the opposite. Okay, so, in that case, white nationalists would be the cleverest people in the world, because they're the ones that falsely claim they're being white genocided. So clearly that's wrong then. Anyway.
And over again with the rise of the grievance industry over the last several decades.
Grievance industry?
But how...
Like, your entire channel is literally just a grievance industry. BPS.
Then do we go from an isolated instance of police brutality in the middle of America to allowing a...
Isolated. Totally isolated. There's never been a single instance of the police ever doing anything even slightly terrible to anyone, ever. The police have always been nothing but completely courteous and loving. I mean, policemen will often go around and just give handjobs out to black guys on the street because they're so loving toward them. They will literally sit there and give them a rusty trombone on the street corner just because they love the blacks so much. And this one incident of a police officer maybe doing something, I'm going to reserve judgment, but maybe doing something that leads to the death of a person, and then all of a sudden it kicks off. How can anyone take this man seriously? It's ridiculous.
Collection of Antifa, BLM, and assorted anarchists to be seated a police precinct in Seattle and then allowed to LARP on as being comrades that have won some kind of revolution for the oppressed. How on the other side of the...
Yeah, that's terrible, isn't it? That they try to do a thing and then were stamped on by authoritarian garbage. What they really should have done is whined on the internet, like Black Pigeon Speaks. That's absolutely fine. That's what you need to do. That's real activism. Actually trying to make a real world impact and show that actually we can organise and a collective of people can achieve something. We can actually survive without, these state oppressive infrastructures and stuff. That's rubbish, because that's like in the real world. Fuck that. What you need to do is whine on the internet. That's the thing that'll make real change.
The earth is a statue of Captain Cook in need of being protected from a mob in Australia, and the street Penny...
Yeah. A street mob in Australia, yeah, the Captain Cook thing. Did you see how many police they had for that statue? Because there was an incredible and horrific story of a woman who had been raped in that city. I think it was Melbourne, if I recall correctly. And they said they didn't have a police officer on call that could help them with that at that moment, and they would have to come in the next day. There were like 40 police officers protecting a statue. Defending white supremacy is much more important than an actual victim of crime. Note that the state of Australia values white supremacist triumphalism over the actual life and safety of one of its citizens.
Lane, made famous by the Beatles, being put on a list to be cancelled in Liverpool. Well, first...
That was actually an interesting one, the one in Liverpool with Penny Lane. Obviously, for those who don't know, Penny Lane was a famous song written by the Beatles, who were like the biggest band ever, basically. And they came from Liverpool, and there's a place called Penny Lane that it was named after. And some people surmised that the penny in Penny Lane would reference a guy called, I think it was Richard Penny, who was a slave trader back in the day. Now, there are loads and loads of places in Liverpool that are named after slave traders and stuff, and institutions that did slave trading and things, because Liverpool's a dock city, had huge involvement in the slave trade. It basically was, along with Bristol, which is where the statue of Edward Colston was dumped into the harbour, Those were the two big slave trading ports. There were other ports in the country that did slave trading as well, but those were the two big ones. And the only reason that those are like big cities now in the UK are because of the slave trade, right? It can all be linked back to that, the economic boom of slavery. But it turns out that the lane probably wasn't named after this penny guy. It referenced the penny newspapers, which were like a cheap, shitty newspaper back in the day, when few people could read, but would sell for a penny. And apparently they were printed. Many of those places were printed. Many of the penny newspapers were printed in that lane. They had printing press places there, and so it was probably named after that, is the thought. There's no way of absolutely proving it because the documentation is incomplete and unlikely to have survived. But that's, yeah. So that probably wasn't a slavery thing. Although it's understandable given Liverpool's connection to slavery. But either way, I'm just giving you a bit of history there. That's the thing. I'm not trying to back up BPS. Because he's just doing it because, oh, fuck it, slavery is awesome. Which, if he were being honest, would be his actual position.
Is the fact that the infrastructure, the organization, and the command and control has already been put into place with the help of Mr. Soros and his billions, that is waiting to pounce on any hot-button issue with the intent on piggybacking off it to push for radical...
Note how he hasn't actually at all connected George Soros with any of this. There's no connection. He's just literally saying, George Soros is behind this. And that's it. There's no... Like, at no point is he connected any group, even, that's connected with George Soros with this. There's nothing.
Social change and the moving of the Overton window wildly to the far left. Secondly, and...
Yeah, wildly to the far left. That's why, Donald Trump is president, and Jair Bolsonaro is president of Brazil, and Vladimir Putin's in charge of Russia, and fucking Orban's in Hungary, and fucking Blondie McPrickface is here in Britain. Yeah, the Overton window's gone so far left. The fuck are you talking about?
Just as importantly is the use of the Mott and Bailey fallacy, which is named after medieval Mott and Bailey style castles, as it applies to politics. And this is where an advocate conflates two positions with similar properties. For example, one modest and easy to defend, the Mott. For example, police reform to eliminate unnecessary brutality. Okay. But then there is the second one, which is much more controversial, the Bailey. For example, abolish police departments in cities altogether. While...
Yeah, no, but you're the one conflating those two. You're literally the one conflating them. Because there are some people who want to reform the police, there are some people who want to abolish the police. There aren't really many people who want both, because they're kind of mutually exclusive. If you abolish the police, you can't really reform them, because they don't exist anymore. So you're the one doing the Mott and Bailey. Assuming that, now at least he's explained it. It's taken, fucking 75% or 2/3 of the way through his video to actually get to the point where he explains the Mott and Bailey that he mentioned at the very start, but is only now actually explaining what that means. Now I understand, but it's still bollocks because he's the one conflating those two things.
While most people can agree that police brutality is something society should seek to eliminate, the more outlandish...
No, I don't know about that. I'm keeping an open mind on it. I don't know. There are videos of it and things, but I don't know. For me, I'm going to keep an open mind. You, on the other hand, might have a closed mind on this and think, oh, well, police brutality is bad. Jesus. See what I did? BPS. I said the stupid thing that you said earlier.
Demand to end police departments altogether, or that statues of Mahatma Gandhi now need to come down because he was a pervert and a racist, doesn't correlate for most.
So what if it doesn't correlate for most? Ending slavery didn't correlate for most. There are loads of things that people do. The abolition of the death penalty didn't correlate with most. That's not really how it works, is it? Now, you can argue in favour of keeping a Gandhi statue if you want to. I personally don't particularly like that idea, but whatever. That's a nuanced concept, I suppose. to an extent. But saying most people don't want it, firstly, I don't know that you've actually done any research on that, although it might be true, who knows. But I don't care. What's right and wrong doesn't change based on what people think.
But this is how the Mott and Bailey are used, and as we've seen, used very effectively in 2020.
How is that Mott and Bailey? How is that anything to do with that? I'll see you later, PZ. Bye. Yeah, that was in the chat. Anyway, if you're watching this back, they'll be in the chat next to you. If you've got the live chat on rather than the top chat. Anyway, yeah, how's that Mott and Bailey at all? Is the taking down the statue of Gandhi the Bailey? But what's that being conflated with? Police brutality? I don't see that that's true. I don't see that's remotely true. But whatever.
But as Lenin said, without revolutionary theory, there can be no revolutionary movement.
I mean, okay. Did you just want to put that in because Lenin said it? And it's like, oh, the communists. But that's just sort of true. Like, you can have an overthrow of a government, but you can't have, like, a revolutionary movement if there's no theory there, obviously. Because what would there be to coalesce around, exactly? Like, yeah, obviously.
And this theory has been put into spectacular action recently via the revolutionary infrastructure and organization put into place over the years with the help of ideologues like Soros.
So George Soros, in case you didn't get it, because he's very subtle. As a propaganda, he's very subtle. He weaves these crazy dreams. You don't know where he is. He's the shape-shifting lizard creature. No, he's one of the most obvious propagandists ever. George Soros is just like Lenin, even though he hasn't shown us at all how George Soros is remotely involved in anything here. But he's asserted, without showing us anything, that George Soros is involved, then given us a completely unrelated quote from Lenin, and therefore George Soros is Lenin. It's very convenient how that works, isn't it? Almost like he's an intellectual fraud who no one should listen to, really.
Who himself has said of himself, and I quote, "I fancied myself as some kind of god. If truth be known, I carried some rather potent messianic fantasies with me from childhood, which I felt I had to control. Otherwise, they might get me in trouble."
Okay, so he had some issues, but he said he had to control them. So, unless you can show me he hasn't controlled them, that doesn't mean anything. And that's assuming that quote's even true, which it's coming from you, so I don't fucking believe. But even if it is true, he's saying, yeah, I've got some demons and shit. Like, there are lots of people who have, either negative feelings towards themselves or positive feelings towards themselves or godly, arrogance to them or whatever, that they have to learn to control. And he's old as fuck, so he's been around for long enough to control them, I think. Maybe not to all occasions, but
This revolutionary
also, to anyone watching, George Soros is a prick, just not in anything like the way these pricks think he is. George Soros is a fucking horrible capitalist bastard who's made billions off the suffering and unemployment of other people. He's garbage, but he's not secret mastermind of the Lenin. He's the new Lenin. Like, he's not. He's this bollocks, man.
Theory is also being used by the street paramilitary.
He's even got a fucking pin for it as well now. So you can have the flag and you can have the lapel pin. So when the new communist president of America comes in, that'll be the lapel pin. Like, you know, they usually have the stars and stripes. Well, now you've got the hammer and sickle and stripes. Yeah, nice.
Groups and their use of wanton violence. Antifa and the organizers of BLM that focus the resentment of the black community for the use of Marxist ends.
Yep. The black movement is being used by the Marxists. That's a thing. I mean, it couldn't be that there are some black people who are quite left-wing and there are some people involved in this who are just liberals and stuff. No, they're a monolith. The Marxisms. It's been run by Lenin, they're Maoists, and they're Marxists. And all of those three things are exactly the same.
Well, this is classic revolutionary tactics and what the late KGB defector...
No, it isn't. It really isn't that. I genuinely, I don't know quite what he means by that. If he could show me an example of any revolution that's ever been remotely successful using the same tactics as, like, largely peaceful protest. Maybe there are, but I mean, that would just be a peaceful transition of power rather than a revolution as such. You know.
Yuri Bezmenov called the deployment of the useful idiots. And what is clearly going on here is the tactical use of a manufactured, let's say...
Again, he's just gone, Yuri Bezmenov said, useful idiots. What's that got to do with anything? Also, Yuri Bezmenov is a right-wing hack. Just in case you didn't know. But it doesn't matter, because it's just a absolute nothing. There's no reason for that quote to have ever been there, but there we go.
Black color revolution, and it being hijacked to bring about...
Black cultural colour revolution. Black! Just in case you didn't get it, he's talking about black people.
A red social revolution by stealth. Moreover, the centers...
How many hammer and sickles has he had in this fucking video? There are Marxist YouTubers who don't have this many hammer and sickles in their fucking... hammers and sickles, whatever, in their videos. Look, it's such naked, obvious propaganda. You're such... this is such bollocks. Loads of these people are going to be voting for Joe Biden in November. They're not Marxists. Although I'm sure you probably think Joe Biden's a Marxist because you're a fucking idiot, but you know.
Of demoralization that used to be called schools have manufactured over the years countless comrades for the ranks of...
Whoa! The fuck am I doing in here? I didn't know he was recycling this.
The social revolution that is to be led by focusing manufactured outrage on whatever social event can kick off the destabilization of the country. And this is why Antifa as well as BLM wish to destroy the family. It's...
Well, there's the thumbnail. There's hang on, where are we? Print screen. Boom. I'd forgotten about this completely. I suppose I should explain the backstory of this. Jesus. Fucking hell. The other person involved in this is a guy called Libertarian Socialist Rants. Cameron is his real name. A Scottish chap who does the channel's Libertarian Socialist Rants. You should go and check out. He's very good. And Black Pigeon Speaks wrongly had us down as having been involved in the in Lefty Poll's flagging campaign against some right-wing YouTubers. Now, I've never been to Lefty Poll, and I talked to Cameron about this at the time, and he said he doesn't go there, like it's not a thing. So we were both wrongly assigned with this, and he made this weird little GIF thing of me and him dancing, with obviously like two other people dancing, with Bash the Fash and stuff behind them. And I got put on the list by these right wingers who were like, there was like a tit for tat thing where they were going to attack the Lefty Poll people from the 4chan whatever thing, from the 4chan. God, how old am I? Anyway, from 4chan, and he wrongly was on it, and so the Nazis put me down, and I was number one on the list. So I was like, yeah, look, I'm the number one SJW communist. Way. Anyway, and they decided to try and flag me down, and that was the first time I got flagged down, if you remember, and my channel was like shut down for 3 or 4 months. And now I've just got off my second stint of having to do that because Andy and Go fans came after me, who are basically Nazis as well. So yeah, that's a thing. So I didn't know this. I didn't know I'd made a reappearance. When was this put out? 20th of June. Okay. Well, there you go. But he doesn't name me, does he? He just says, these are two leftists. Okay. Well, thank you to whoever linked me to this. I presume they knew I was in the video. Okay.
It's the bedrock of society. This is also why they are using the Motte and Bailey. It's used to fling absurdly dangerous social division to the forefront, and why they seek to socially Photoshop history into oblivion. As a society that has historical amnesia can be much more easily molded by the...
Historic amnesia. Look, this is the whole point with this statue thing. Moving past the fact that I was in the video, okay? Let's calm down. Let's chill. Let's centre. Let's focus, right? The whole point of this statue thing that the right seem to have such a boner for is that taking down statues of people that we now don't like doesn't change history, because they don't teach history. At best, they've got like the name of the person, maybe the years they were alive, and one or two tiny details. That doesn't teach you anything, does it? You learn history in like classrooms. You learn history in museums. You learn history in YouTube videos can be historically interesting. By the way, History with Kev, my second channel, you should go and subscribe to. I do history videos. I did one recently about William Shakespeare and stuff. Go and check that out. It's linked below. Go and subscribe to my fucking history channel, dickheads. Anyway, so so there are loads of ways you can learn history. Statues aren't there to teach you history. They're there to celebrate and commemorate and glorify the person / people / movement, whatever the statue happens to be of and for and about. So removing statues doesn't remove history. It's not like the people of Germany forgot who Hitler was because there are no statues of him. That's obviously not true. Right? You don't need statues of people in order to know the history of a thing. You need history for that. You need to be taught history. Statues aren't for that.
Rhetoric of the revolution. Anything that unites a people, family, church, history, national heroes, and inevitably the
communism
flag.
And communism. Why not just, for no fucking reason whatsoever, put up a hammer and sickle again? Hammer and sickle? Or even Hamel. I can't fucking speak. Hammer and sickle again. How many times has it been on the screen now? 5, 6, I don't know.
All of these are set to be destroyed, and all of these have already become the
How is religion being set to be destroyed? Because there are loads of the black people marching in America right now who are very religious. There are huge numbers of them. I mean, that's not even a new thing. Martin Luther King was a fucking reverend. That motherfucker was a religious preacher. This is not a new thing that's taking place here. They're very religious. Religion isn't going anywhere because of BLM, you fucking idiot. We're nearly there. We're nearly through it, people.
It's important to remember that societies are incredibly interconnected and interdependent, and all...
No, we're all atomized individuals who need to... something. I'm keeping an open eye on it. I'm just dunking now. I'm just throwing poop at him.
Also, that they are extremely fragile. In our own time, we have seen the breathtaking speed in which collapse can happen in the USSR, Yugoslavia, and the...
Oh, God. So we've had Maoist, communist, obviously leftist. We've had Lenin, quoted. We've had Yuri Bezmenov. We've had USSR. We've had Yugoslavia. What? The fuck? What?
The ongoing collapse in South Africa.
The ongoing collapse in South Africa. That's a thing that's happening. The whites are being murdered everywhere. It's not true, though. But, we keep saying it. Because why not? If you say it enough, it becomes true. That it doesn't happen. It's not how it works.
Country is the only home you have, and they are coming for all of it.
All of
People
it.
need to be made aware of this.
Well, you wouldn't
whether
want just
it's
a tip,
an
would you?
historic figure, your flag, or the Beatles, whatever.
What? How are they coming for the Beatles? Actually, it was religious fuckers in the 60s that came from the Beatles, just in case you didn't know. No one's coming for the Beatles. They were going about Penny Lane, which is not actually owned by the Beatles or anything. They named a song after Penny Lane, because it was like an area of the city that they knew or whatever. Right? They knew well. So that's it. There's no... They're not cancelling the Beatles. I'm sure the Beatles didn't even know like why it was called Penny Lane. It was just called Penny Lane. It's just the name of a fucking street in the city that they're from. So, so it's nothing to do with that. People, I think, possibly wrongly, I mean, it's impossible to know exactly, but it seems unlikely it was named after the guy. But people thought it was named after a slave trader. So they're like, maybe we could change that name? They're not cancelling the Beatles. The fuck are you talking about? What, genuinely, how do you even, in your own mind, how do you make that leap to them? No one's mentioned the Beatles at all. No one's even gone, you know, they named a thing after a slave. Because they didn't. They named it after a street. Yeah, as someone says, why is he erasing John Lennon? Imagine that. Hey, imagine that. Ha ha ha!
Ever motivates you. But at least be aware of what this is all about. And remember that none of this is organic and all of it is going...
Also, by the way, just a little time out, homeboy. I should have mentioned, you know the Beatles were pretty leftist, right? Just saying. Like, they were pretty fucking leftist. Pretty leftist, yeah. Just in case you didn't know.
According to plan. Penny Lane be damned. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please consider...
American Taliban rising. Oh, God, let's go back to, where are we? Where am I? There I am. Where am I? Look at that. I got moves, man. I got moves. I'm trying to end it on a still image that what kill the unbeliever. That's a thing that both Cameron and I say a lot. Yeah. There we go. That's the image that we want to end on. Me and Cameron having a good old jig. Anyway, I'm basically done at this point. We only looked at 2 fucking videos in shit. An hour and 37 minutes. That is a little bit mental. But anyway, thank you all for watching and all this shit. Any other final comments? Because I don't really know. Penny Lane be damned. Exactly, yeah. Penny Lane be damned. BPS is doing a they with the parentheses around it. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. The whole thing about George Soros is entirely based on anti-Semitism. Because there are lots of other people who aren't Jewish, like, say, Rupert Murdoch, who actually do basically control things around the world all the fucking time, who do literally have world leaders on speed dial, who they can just call up and be like, yo, Boris Johnson, do this thing. And they'll do it, because they run the place. So, but it's George Soros, because the Jews. That's it. That's literally all they care about, is the fact that he's Jewish. Anyway, so yeah, I'm back on the channel now, which is cool. I've got a few things lined up. This whole stream, actually, I should have mentioned at the start. Well, I didn't really need to mention, but this was sort of me taking time off from editing the next episode of Prager FU. And I was actually going to title this "Taking a Break from Dave Rubin and the Frog with Glasses," which is a weird reference. It's a weird reference, but will make sense if you watch the next Prager FU video, which will be coming out at some point, probably in the next couple of weeks or something. I don't know. I'm a lazy man. So this has been like my break from that. I was planning to go back to it after this. I might do. I probably won't. There's football on or something, so you know. But that's the thing I've been putting together. It's fun to dunk on Dave Rubin because he's such an idiot. is such a bizarre little creature. Anyway, so that'll be coming out. I've got I don't have a date or a time for it yet, but someone reached out to me on Facebook who's like a history person as well, so I'll be having them on. Seems like a nice person. She's got a history podcast and stuff, so she'll be coming on the channel to talk about history and politics and stuff, which will be should be a lot of fun actually. She's nice people, but so I'll if you follow my social media, my Facebook and Twitter, which I linked below, I'll do the bare minimum of self-promotion, and if you catch that self-promotion, you can watch that whenever it happens. Tomorrow night, as I mentioned earlier, we've got a happy hour. Me and Christy are going to do a thing. Not entirely sure what it's going to be about yet, but stuff. There's always stuff in the news, and now you're just typing rude words in the chat. I mean, I deserve that, really. I do it to everyone else, including myself. So stay tuned for that. What podcast? I've forgotten the name, but if you contact me on Facebook, I'll link you to it because it's very good. I've listened to a couple of the episodes and they're very good. And she'll be on at some point. Yeah, but yeah. Happy hour tomorrow night. Me and Christy. The usual time: 9 p.m. UK time, 10 p.m. Central European time, where Christy is because she's foreign. She's doubly foreign because she's American in Germany. That's like compound foreignness, which is cool. Anyway, so there's that. 5 p.m. on the east coast of America. You'll have to find out your own time zones from those triangulation points. And what else have we got coming up? That's about it. Oh yeah, and I'll be doing some Twitch streaming soon because I'm getting my brother's second-hand computer for cheap, but he does like high fucking gaming stuff with 1 million pixels a second or whatever. So my just wanting to watch a video and laugh at it, watching a War Corpse video and going, he's an idiot, on Twitch will be a lot easier on that. So look out for that. I'll be putting that on the social medias. Everything's linked below. That's about it really. Thank you all for listening and watching. This has been a lot of fun. I might do something like this in the future. And for anyone who's around tomorrow night, I'll see you then. Pip pip.